Okay, well, good Tuesday afternoon, Jet fans. It is February 4th, 2020, 1:30 p.m., and we are about a little less than 48 hours post Super Bowl. Um, I'm going to quickly go through my thoughts on the Super Bowl and everything from the performance to the halftime performance to the score to some coaching decisions to some referee decisions, and then talk about some Jet news or Jet tweets, and then do something different today. We're going to do what I like to call the top games that made or broke this franchise, top decisions that made or broke this franchise for the future. So I'll start it off first of all. As I was getting this video ready, breaking news: Steve Mills is out as at a Knicks as the Knicks. I believe he's the president or GM. This just broke as I was getting this ready a little while ago. The Knicks are just an embarrassment right now. Last week there was a chance of sell the team going on. Um, during a game, Jim Dolan had somebody thrown out. There was a brawl towards the end of the game with some players. It's just been crazy. Um, and he will address this going forward, I guess. They need, just like the Jets, football minded, or in their case, basketball minded people running the show. Also, what you see on my blue shirt on is actually a Ranger shirt. It's not a Patriot or a Giant shirt, so don't worry about that. The Rangers last night lost 5-3. At one point, it was 1-0 Rangers, 2-2, and then they just lost. Henrik Lundqvist, the longtime Ranger goaltender, I've been saying it for the last two seasons, has lost a lot of his I don't know if it's a speed or his skills. I don't know if he can lose skills. But once he got injured, he was not the same goaltender that he was the year they went to the finals. Um, so that's the news right now around the league. Um, Baseball's gearing up, I think, 10 days to pitchers and catchers. On some teams, maybe even less. You'll have spring training games probably within 2 or 3 weeks. First regular season game is probably just a little over a month. And here we are, February 4th. Super Bowl just ended. And football season has ended for the NFL. There are CBA negotiations that will be going on. There is the XFL that will be starting this weekend. The New York, New Jersey team, or they're called New York actually, are the Guardians. They will be coached by Kevin Kilbride, the former offensive coordinator of the New York Giants. And for you who go back years, Rex Ryan's father, Buddy Ryan, actually punched out Kevin Kilbride during a New York Jet Houston Oiler game. Buddy Ryan was the Houston Oiler defensive coordinator. Kilbride was the Oiler offensive coordinator. I think the Jets wound up getting a turnover, and Ryan and Kilbride went at it on the sidelines, and then Ryan threw a punch. It was Sunday Night Football. The Jets win; they get into the playoffs that year. The Jets wound up getting blown out, but that's the infamy of behind Kevin Kilbride. Um, so Super Bowl 54 was Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs break the drought 50 years. They win 31-20 over the San Francisco 49ers. Just a few things to take from this. Third straight playoff game where Kansas City was down by double digits, came back and won by double digits. That's just amazing. They were down to the Texans. I believe it was 24-0. They were down 17-10 to Tennessee Titans and the AFC Championship game, and they were down 20-10 going late into this game, and then wound up scoring 3 touchdowns. Mahomes was very, very shaky early on, missing passes, throwing some picks. Um, and here's breaking news. Well, this was reported a little earlier, but NFL Network saying Patriots willing to pay Tom Brady approximately $30 million per year to stay with franchise. We'll get into that in a little bit as well. But San Francisco had this game for the taking. There's one or two things that stand out. The first one I think everybody spoke about was before the half, San Fran had the ball. Um, I think they had a minute 47 on the clock, and they were getting the ball to start the second half as well. And they ran a running play, which was their bread and butter. They were running the ball, and they didn't stop the clock. And they wasted probably 47 to maybe a minute worth of clock and wound up coming away with nothing. They just sat on the ball. Um, you could have put 3 up there. You could have put 6 up there, 7 up there. When they asked the coach why, he said that he felt he was getting the ball back, and if he scored, KC would get the ball as well before the half ended and possibly go down and score as well. So he wanted to go into the half with a 10-point lead and come out with the ball. Hindsight's 2020. I would have went for it. I said it then. Their general manager Steve Lynch was actually in the press box. You could see him on TV doing this, saying "call timeout." Shanahan, you could say, kind of blew it on that. Um, he is also going to be infamous for this. He was part of that Atlanta Falcon team. He was the offensive coordinator that was up 28-3 and lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl a few years back. And now he gave up double-digit lead in the Super Bowl here as a head coach and lost. You take nothing away from the Chiefs. They made the plays when they had to make the plays. They made the stops when they had to make the stops. And Mahomes stepped up. He had a rushing touchdown. Um, he hit his open receivers. He made plays when there were no plays. He did throw, I believe, 2 interceptions. But in the end, Mahomes took over the game. He led the team, and they won. Congratulations to Andy Reid, who this was his second Super Bowl. He lost the first one to the Patriots when he was with the Eagles, and he had Donovan McNabb thrown up all over the field. He's been to numerous conference championship games. Last year, of course, he lost to the Patriots. This year, they took the step and they beat Tennessee. They were home in KC, and they win. Um, I picked KC to win by 10 points or so. They did. I said it would be like 42-32 or 47-37. It didn't get that high. It did get to 31-20, which is 51 points. I said it would go over to 50 and a half that they were saying over under. It did that as well. And I called Mahomes to be the MVP, and he was MVP. Uh, there was some officiating calls that make you scratch your head, especially in a big game like this. The one call I agree with wholeheartedly was not calling unnecessary roughness against Kansas City as Garoppolo was trying to get out of bounds. He had at least 2 steps more on the green of the field before he got to the white. Um, and again, this is the Super Bowl, and what if he tries to turn up field or he makes a stop? They pushed him out of bounds. It was a rough push out of bounds, but you know what? He wasn't on the white. He wasn't leaning towards the white. He was on his way there, but he didn't get there yet. So that's what it is. I agree with not calling a call there. There was an offensive pass interference call that they made against, I believe it was Kittle on the 49ers. If you go verbatim, word for word on this rule, yes, it was the right call. It was a ticky-tack play. I think it was a rough call to make and it overturned the score. Um, and the last one was actually the running back for Kansas City was running in for a touchdown. At the 2-yard line, his foot touches the white. He's out of bounds, but he is reaching at the same time for the pylon. The ball does cross the plane. From the angles that they showed, you could not tell exactly when the out of bounds occurred and when the ball crossed the plane. It was inconclusive. They kept the field ruling of a touchdown. I agreed with that. I don't know, maybe because I was rooting for Kansas City. If it was on the other hand, if I was a 49 fan, maybe I'm pissed. But the angles that they saw, they could not make it overturned. And a lot of people on the radio yesterday, FAN and whatnot said, how could they not have an overhead angle or a field level angle with the goal line and the sideline in a game like this, where there's probably 50 to 100 cameras catching all the action. But that was a big touchdown for the Chiefs in the fourth quarter, and it wound up being one of the scores that eventually made them world champions. So congratulations to the Chiefs. They break a 50-year drought. Okay, they were number 2 on the list for the most years without winning a championship by going to the Super Bowl earlier in their career. The Jets are at 51 and counting, almost 52. So let's hope that the Jets are up next. That being said, all week Jamal Adams has been tweeting from the Super Bowl. He was down there, and one of them was, I will play in the Super Bowl. I will win a Super Bowl. I responded to his tweet was, I hope you win it with the Jets, because he once said the first year he was in the league, I'll never miss a Pro Bowl game, and the next 2 seasons he's made the Pro Bowl. So I'm hoping his Super Bowl prediction is correct. You could see he was getting a little nostalgic or a little emotional watching the Chiefs celebrate, watching Mahomes celebrate, watching the team celebrate, getting the Vince Lombardi trophy, the confetti. And as a Jet fan, I mean, all I could say is I just want to see it once. Since I've been following this team, they've been to 4 AFC Championship games. They're 0 for 4. Mud Bowl against the Dolphins. Denver with the 10-point lead against the Broncos. Indianapolis, where they had a 17-16 lead at halftime. And of course, Pittsburgh the following year when they were down 24-3 and then lost 24-19. So I want that green confetti. I want that parade. I want my guy to have MVP, and I just want that ecstasy of winning. It's 51 years, uh, and it's ironic. I'm wearing a Rangers shirt, and the Rangers won in '94, and it was 54 years. And of course, when they won in '94, I was only 22 at the time. I was only probably following them for since I was 8 or 9. So but every year it seemed like they lost in the playoffs, something happened. Well, the Philadelphia was just too strong for them. Adam Graves gets suspended for hitting Mario Lemieux with a slash. Brian Leach slips in front of his house and does something to his ankle. Dennis Potvin and the infamous Potvin sucks chant comes from him hurting a Ranger player during a game. So what I could say, and Ranger fans, if you remember this, they were a dominant team that whole '94 year. They won the President's Trophy, which is the best team in the league. Had home ice throughout, which is huge when you do 4 rounds and best of 7. Swept their first team, which was the Islanders, ironically led by Ron Hextall in goal, which was a Philadelphia goaltender that always beat them. They beat the Capitals in 5, and then the Devils, who were the second best team in the league that year, the Rangers were 6-0 during the regular season, took them to 7 games, 2 double overtimes, double overtime also to get them to the finals. The Mateau chant, it's almost like the shot heard around the world. Uh, you know, um, Down goes Frazier, Giants win the pennant, um, whatever you want to call it. And then the Rangers go 7 games against a Canuck team that wasn't as good and shouldn't have been where they were, but it was euphoria. It was ecstasy. It was the biggest weight off your shoulders ever lifted, and the parade was just even better. And that's what I want for my Jets, and I know Jet fans want that. So, all right. So we're in off season right now. Free agency starts in a few weeks, um, and then you'll have the draft coming up, and you'll have trades made. But what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the games that this team has played in, some of the decisions that this team has played in that has changed the course of the team in the future. 85-86 season, the Jets had just moved out of Shea Stadium. They were in the Giant Stadium. They were in the Meadowlands. Back then, only thing that said Jets on it was the end zone. It was blue walls and whatnot. But the Jets went 10-1. They were just a powerhouse going towards the end of the season. Um, they would lose their last 5 games, if you can imagine. They're in first place all the way. They wound up losing the last 5 games, and they wound up making second place in the AFC East. But they host a wild card game. Okay, that back then the playoff situation was a little different than it is now. They host, ironically, the Kansas City Chiefs, who just won the Super Bowl, and they were led by Kenny O'Brien the whole season, but he was injured, so Pat Ryan played against the Chiefs, and they just dominated them on all sides of the ball. I can remember watching it, and they had a fake field goal attempt or a fake punt attempt. I remember them putting out there. They just had a great game against the Chiefs, and they move on to the second round of the divisional round, and they play the Cleveland Browns, and that is my number 10 um, game that changed this team's outlook. The mistake by the lake, where the Jets get a bad break. There you go, it rhymes. The Jets go to Cleveland Municipal Stadium, which was nicknamed the Mistake by the Lake because it was right on Lake Erie, and the wind and the snow. I can remember Yankees playing like the opening series of the Major League Baseball season, and the baseball diamond would still be all beat up from playing football. Um, it would be still possibly frozen. You're talking April or whatever, possibly snow flurries coming off of the lake. But the Jets go in there, and Free McNeil was the Jet running back, and they had Wesley Walker, and for the most part, the Jets went back and forth with this team. Um, Pat Ryan, who was playing for O'Brien, was injured, so Kenny O'Brien comes in. The Jet offense gave up 9 sacks, okay, but they kept the game close. Um, Mark Mosley was a field goal kicker for Cleveland. I remember I was watching this game on I think it was NBC back then, and I watched all the regular um, regulation time, and with 4:14 to go, Free McNeil scores a rushing touchdown, and the Jets are up by 10. And Charlie Steiner, who was also a voice of the Yankees not too long ago, um, blurts out, and the Jets have a 10-point lead, and the Jets are headed to the AFC Championship game, and that was a kiss of death. Bernie Kosar had a 2nd and 24 late in the game. Incomplete pass. Mark Gasso gets hit for roughing the passer. There was a pass interference call. Basically, in that 4:15, Cleveland ties the game. They get those 10 points. Now, Mark Mosley had missed 2 field goals earlier. Okay. He was 3 of 6 on the whole game. Okay. They get to overtime, and both teams can't move the ball. And it was just a typical, you want to say typical Jet game it was, because anything they can do to make it go wrong can go wrong. Pass interference, holding call that set up a field goal to tie the game. The roughing the passer on Gastineau, which back then I would have said no, but if you look at it, yeah, he took like 3 steps before he hit him. Basically, Mosley is in chip chop range to end the Jet season, and he misses. And now the game goes into double overtime. And again, these Jets the offense that was so good all year could not get anything. And then Mosley gets the ball back again, and again kicks it. And again, I mean, he's 1 yard back, he misses it, but he hits it in double overtime, and the Jets lose 23-20 to the Browns. But in this game, you lost Pat Ryan early. You gave up 9 sacks. Field goal kicker missed 2. During regulation, he missed 1 in overtime. You're up by 10 with less than 5 minutes to go, with little over 4 minutes to go, 4:14 to go. Roughing the passer call. You lose Free McNeil to an injury to his eye, defensive holding call, pass interference call, and a 10-6 team who started off 10-1 just couldn't pull this off. Just to show you the ramifications of this game, where it was, the following week, Cleveland plays Denver. Infamous game was the drive. John Elway did the drive. He went 90-plus yards in, I forgot, I don't know if it was 2 minutes or not. I remember watching that game as well. And they win the game. And they beat the Browns. They go to the Super Bowl. Who does Denver play in the Super Bowl in 1986? The New York Giants. So your Jets, who were 10-1, drop to 10-6, get the wild card, get a home game in the wild card, which now wild card teams don't get a home game. It's the wild card plays a division winner. And you basically beat a Kansas City team. You go and you have the Browns on the ropes, and you can't finish that. And it winds up, if you would have played Broncos, you might be playing the Giants in the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know if they would have got past the Broncos. The Broncos were a better team, obviously, with Elway. Bernie Kosar was, I believe, the quarterback for the Browns that year. But that's just the first. I remember the A.J. Dewey game, the Mud Bowl, but that was the first game where I had a dagger in my heart from this team. So, the mistake by the lake, and the Jets, can't get a break. As I mentioned earlier, CBA, the owners and the players association will be discussing a lot of changes, safety changes, rule changes. The owners want 2 more regular season games. They want 18 regular season games. Rumor is that it's possible the players will negotiate to get 17. The way that'll work is, first of all, they're going to cancel or get rid of at least 2, if not 3, preseason games. The season would still start the same weekend. but each team will get 2 byes, which would extend the season a little longer. Um, because it's an odd amount of games, there'd be an off-site game. Each team would play an off-site game once a year. It could be Mexico, Mexico City. It could be London. It could be a state and a city who does not have an NFL team. So you could be playing in, you know, Iowa. You could be playing, you know, well, Nevada has it now, but you could be playing in a state where an NFL team is not located, or an NFL city doesn't have an NFL team. A city doesn't have an NFL team. Also, what they're saying is the players are going to get a lot of compensation for this because it's an extra regular season game. There may be roster changes where 53 man, maybe a 60 man. Um, it's up in the air, but it looks like that. And the way it may end is Super Bowl weekend would be President's Weekend if it worked out that way, with the extra week and the bye week. It'll also bring you another level of playoffs. So either there'll be more wild card teams, um, or it'll be another week of wild card, almost like a baseball wild card. But it'll also be that the only team that gets home field throughout would be the number 1 seed. So if you are the number 2 seed, you are not guaranteed a home game. It may go by record, head-to-head record, or overall record. There's maybe some realigning of the divisions as well. But that is it. That's what they're in the talks of now. That change might not go into effect for at least 1 or 2 years. I don't see it going into effect next year. What I think they need to do, though, is get better officiating. There were a lot of calls this year um, that were outrageous. The reviewing of pass interference, you gotta call the review the same way. You gotta be consistent with anything. You gotta be consistent. Somebody said that there was no holding calls on Sunday, but they say there's a holding call on every play, and he was like, "How do you not call a flag?" And Joe and Evan, I believe Evan Robinson on WFAN, he called it consistently. He didn't call holding on either team throughout the game, so it was consistent. You knew what you could get away with, and that's what you need. So that is my game that broke my heart. My first time I broke my heart. That is our Super Bowl wrap up. If we have any breaking news, Le'Veon Bell trade, Le'Veon Bell staying, Jamal, Robbie Anderson, anything like that, I will get it out to you. I will tweet it. Of course, we're on all social media platforms right now. You can find us at www.nyjetstories.com. That's www.nyjetstories.com. We're on Facebook. NY Jet Stories is our Facebook page. Join. We want to hear you. We want to see pictures. We want to see your post. Tweet me. We're at Twitter at NY Jet Stories is our Twitter handle. And of course, this video, which I'm going to probably do 1 or 2 times a week, more likely on the one side unless things start heating up, and possibly when we start getting into draft mode and free agency mode and minicamp mode. Alex Pazziali, NY Jet Stories is this YouTube channel. Baseball coming up. If you're a Yankee fan, you are favored to get to the World Series. The Mets are 18-1 odds to get to the World Series. And as of Friday night, as the Super Bowl was ended, and I was watching post game, the Jets are 70-1 to be Super Bowl 55 champions. Have a great day, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.